What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the place where streams come true. But first things first, we're going to change a bit of a logo because we found out that there's another podcast called Where Streams Come True. So we are the place where streams come true. And today we are going to talk about the third episode of WandaVision. But first, my name is Shannon and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Helen. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I really love this episode, so I'm psyched to talk about it.
I laughed at this episode probably more than I should have. I guess because I didn't
Cheesy.
like because it was very stereotypical sitcom humor, which I kind of watched some sitcoms growing up as a kid, but not traditionally. I don't know. I guess maybe I found it funny because it was the character's vision of Wanda doing it, and I just absolutely
Yeah.
love their chemistry. So I did find myself laughing at this way too much than I probably should have because it is very gimmicky, sitcom-y jokes. But I don't know. I just found it hilarious. But first things first, of course, we're going to break it down. So Helen, help us out. Let's break down episode 3.
Alrighty. We start off with our lovely 70s intro, which pays homage to a whole bunch of different shows, and we can kind of see them all reflected in the title cards. We don't see quite as many Easter eggs as we did in the animated one. What it actually kind of feels like is Wanda kind of re-establishing, I'm going to say Wanda re-establishing the world as it should be now. So she's now friends with Geraldine. She's creating sort of the memory of all these experiences that she's had, seeing all these people and buying all the things for the nursery and lots of giraffes. But I will come back to that later.
Awesome.
But yeah, so a really, really cool intro there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know if you've noticed this, but every show there's a hexagon in it. And also what also has a hexagon shape is a beehive. I might be looking into it, but I'm just thinking hive mind. We have the beekeeper.
That's pretty cool.
And I'm very partial to the shape because I use it in my own designs and things, but I like it kind of thing. But I noticed it the first 2 episodes, but then it was really in this intro, deliberately every little frame was a hexagon. Yeah, 6 hexagon. And I was like, okay, this has to be deliberate because it's not now, it's for the times kind of thing, or the time period. But yeah, it was very much a very Brady Bunch, Mary Tyler Moore show, all kind of stuff intro. So I'm loving it. I can't wait to see what next week's kind of 80s is going to be, because this is going to start being the shows I remember watching, and the 90s and the oddies. But anyway, so so I love that it opens up, and then now we're kind of with the Doctor doing that stereotypical humor, and they're all like, huh, what does it mean? And I love that. I love that he's like, yep, you're definitely pregnant. And she's this massive belly. It's like, yeah, thanks, Doc. Thanks for that.
The Doctor, of course, being Dr. Nielsen, as in Nielsen ratings for television. Really enjoyed that.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's the sort of the rating system for how many views a show gets, and it's kind of what a lot of shows live and die on. But just loved that, of all the names they could have picked for the Doctor, it was Nielsen.
See, it's this kind of detail I'm, 1, really glad you pick up on, and 2, that has to be deliberate. You can't tell me that it's coincidental.
Yeah, I mean, it's a TV-based show, and you have a character called Nielsen. That's definitely not accidental. I know that a lot of viewers of various movies and TV shows get accused of reading too much into things, but I think with this one in particular, the intention is there are clues here. Yeah. It was set up as a mystery. The trailers all made you kind of sort of go, oh, what is the mystery of what is happening here? So I don't think it's too wild to be reading into things right now.
Yeah, definitely. So I loved that also. One thing that I really picked up kind of clue-wise is Vision is very aware of the time period, because after they talk to the Doctor and everything, he's like, so what about the span of it being in 12 hours, which is interesting. As the first time, we're kind of getting a time pacing between these episodes because we don't know at the time, like in the world, what time period is happening. So it's obviously 12 hours within the span of the end of episode 2 to episode 3. So that means all that stuff that happened in the opening sequence is not like days and days and days and days have
That's what I'm
passed.
saying. Yeah, that's why I kind of feel like the intro is her kind of reestablishing it. And I have this kind of feeling about the intros and also the adverts as
Mhm.
being sort of a very specific, this is the time period that we are in right now. Like, narrow it down to just this.
Mm.
And also, like I say, re-establishing relationships or establishing relationships, as Geraldine later in the episode is like, you know, your best friend Geraldine, who you've spoken to twice.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of thing that's quite interesting to see.
Yeah, so I think, of course, being in with the times, you have the doctor kind of going, "Oh, okay, to make it easier for the little lady, say this." And of course, you can tell she kind of almost breaks the fourth wall and kind of looks at the camera like, "Mm-hmm."
Mhm.
But it's interesting, like talking about the fruit and whatnot. And again, their chemistry is great. Where he's kind of going like this, and she looks at him, and he's like,
But it's also fun because we're kind of seeing a Vision in this show is very of the time that his show is set in, the show is set in. We know what normal Vision sounds like. He's very soft spoken. He's very deliberate in his words. He isn't prone to exaggeration. He's
"Yeah."
a robot. Um, or actually, as they mentioned in this episode, they correctly call him a synthezoid, which is what he is in the comics. So I'm glad to see them actually, using the word that we would expect there. But this sort of goofy 70s version of him, it's kind of fun to see where that appears and disappears throughout the episode. It's very much clearer than the 50s, where the guys in the 50s are still kind of relatively reserved, not quite as like zany. So when you have the difference between Vision and 50s Vision, they aren't quite as far away as Vision and 70s Vision, who are just completely different
Oh,
people. And it's
can
just
we
Paul
talk?
Bettany having the time of his life.
He's brilliant. And can we talk about the joke? The
The papaya.
Again, I laughed at that way too much than I should have. But slightly before we get to that joke, we have the Wanda ask Vision to take the doctor, walk the doctor out and everything. And of course, we set up that he's going to Bermuda,
Which
and
I
we
loved.
see, yes, and we see Herb, working in the garden
Yep,
and everything.
trim in the hedges.
And I think we get our first kind of glitch because I can't tell if it's like he's glitching or what, but I mean, clearly he's, hedging through the brick kind of
It
thing.
is very peculiar. The way that he is staring directly at the where the trimmer meets the wall, like he is just absolutely focused on it. And when Vision sort of points out to him, um, it reminded me of like an NPC in a video game that
Yeah.
perhaps hasn't, like, they're just walking into a wall constantly. They're just continuing to do what they were programmed to do, with no regards to whether that's what they're supposed to be doing or not. But I have quite a lot of things to say about her later on in the
Yes,
episode.
definitely. So yeah, we have it set up and the doctor says goodbye. We now have kind of like our, oh crap, we have a crunch time because the doctor's leaving to go to Bermuda and everything like that. So Vision comes in, makes the papaya joke, and then of course he comes in and she's even more pregnant than 4 months. We're now looking at 6 months.
Yep. And it is interesting to see that, just as Vision was spotting that something might be wrong, she got extra pregnant. Not sure if that was a sort of a deliberate, I've got to move things along, sort of intentional thing, but just an interesting little note.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember when we get to the couch because I think she's standing, and then because let's talk about the scene when we have our first kind of reset because this time it's not a deliberate rewind. It's actually like it just kind of flicks to a black screen.
Further on in the episode, I'm just looking at my notes here.
Oh, is it when she's having the false labor? Because he's reading the book and he explains.
Sorry, well, I've got notes here, and I, for some insane reason, I don't have it. It's after the so they've got the nursery,
That's it.
then
Okay,
false labor, then Billy and Tommy. Vision clocks that something is wrong. Wanda resets. So yeah,
gotcha.
it's a little bit further down. We
A
might
little
want to
further.
rewind.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just kind of the. So yes, that's right. So I guess we get into the nursery now, and we see her kind of. Oh, because I think we have the commercial play. That's what happens. Because that's how we jump from Vision being outside to then. No, this
No.
is why you write the notes. Right. Just help us out.
So after we see Herb sort of having his moment and Vision heads back inside, we see Wanda starting to decorate the nursery. We have using her magic to put the crib together. She's painting a little stork on the wall. She is putting a mobile up with butterflies on it, and she feels the baby kick and says that it feels
Fluttery.
fluttery. And as she says fluttery, the butterflies in the mobile flutter away. And she doesn't. It doesn't seem like she actually didn't mean to do it. The way she says, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that," was very. I'm performing that I didn't mean to do that. Like this is still within the confines of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so an unintentional thing to happen, very peculiar. But we do see sort of as things continue, things are getting a little bit more uncontrollable around her. She's not quite able to keep a hold on things, and as she goes into false labor, the whole kitchen kind of explodes somewhat.
That was hilarious, and it's getting back to kind of like the like things on the wall spinning and like the water overflowing and everything, and it just
Yeah,
goes
all
really
the
bright.
classic magic is happening sort of effects, practical effects that you could have.
Yeah,
Just
and
pour
so
the
then
whole bunch of dish soap down the sink and just hope for the best.
yeah, and then of course they keep their power, but then the power goes out, and I love that it cuts away to the neighbor. That one woman, Dottie, comes in and is like, "Do these earrings
These
make me?"
earrings make me look fat.
And I laughed so hard when it when it goes black. And he's like, "Oh, thank God."
Yep. Two things in that scene. The newspaper he is reading says 2 new fire hydrants installed on Main Street, but the paper is folded, so it just says Hydra, to fire Hydra.
Oh,
And also,
interesting.
as he says, "Oh, thank God," he looks directly into the camera
How
for an
funny.
extended period of time. He knows.
Oh my
Um,
God.
what I also loved is when the kitchen was going crazy and Wanda and Vision were both kind of escaping from it. Wanda was doing her usual, the way that she acts when she is being attacked, which is to get ready for that. Vision's doing exactly the same thing back to back with her, which is not something that Vision would ever do. He's very stand straight up and shoot laser beams out of the middle of his forehead. He doesn't really do fancy hand thing. So it was just interesting that he was exactly mirroring her pose, which kind of, to me, continues the idea that he is an extension of her.
Hmm. Because it also made me think very Charlie's Angels with the back to back.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So that just it literally came to mind when you said about the back to back. I'm like, oh yeah, that's very Charlie's Angels with the
Yeah.
but
We
and
also,
then
sorry, go on.
no, you go for it. Go for it.
So we also hear the first discussion of the names for the baby. It could either be Tommy, which is an all-American name, or it could be Billy after William Shakespeare. And we get a wonderful quote from Vision where he does "All the world's a stage," which is a nice little thing. Which again, how much does Vision know? Is he really entirely Vision? Is he an extension of something else.
Well, yeah, because the
Um,
quote is very telling. The all the world's a stage with its many players. I mean, that
yeah,
he could have literally used any William Shakespeare quote. So to have
to be or
that,
not to be, perhaps something more
yeah.
cliche.
So I mean, I think that's very deliberate personally, because I thought that too. The minute he said that, my old theater person in me was like, "Ooh, they could have chosen anything there," and they chose "All the World's a Stage" with its many players to continue on with that quote was quite something. But and yeah, I just again I love the exchange and the back and forth with the it kind of goes throughout the whole show with the whole Tommy Billy. There's just little nuances with each other. So and then.
The thing about the all-American name kind of goes back to what you were saying about episodes 1 and 2 about sort of why this might be set in a sort of American TV sitcom.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of like, which I think, which is funny because I knew a lot of Billies growing up, but maybe that's the time period I grew up in.
A classic name.
Yes, definitely. So what happens next?
So, blah, 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 blah. So next we sort of, oh, why does he clock that something is wrong at that point?
Because yeah, there's something where like because I remember she's sitting on the couch and he walks around to come sit next to her. Oh, I know what happened. So it's something about he goes out and checks on the neighbors or whatever because of like the power and things.
Yes, yes, that was it. Do you want to rewind?
Yeah, so we basically he goes and he talks about like the neighbors and everything, and then that's where she's like, "You don't think the neighbors know," or something like that, and then that's where his voice changes too. He goes out of
This is this is what I was saying with 70s vision versus real vision, where he becomes that very deliberate, soft spoken Wanda. There is something wrong here.
yeah, and he starts naming them by names, and he kind of sits down and does that really soft spoken, gentle, like you could talk to me like that anytime kind of voice, and again, it's weird though because this time we don't have any fancy rewind or anything like that. Like to the point, I had to make sure it wasn't my internet connection.
Exact same thing. He was like, "Did everything just glitch? Like, did our Disney Plus just break?"
Yeah, so no, I had to watch that. I had to like rewind and go, "Oh wait, no, that is definitely like intentional kind of thing," because it
Yeah,
was just a slight kind of black frame and then starting over. But then I was like, "Oh, okay." So it fooled me. I was like, "Oh, oops."
interesting about that is, I as with previous times where things have rewound, or things have sort of Wanda's kind of gone, no, change this. Um, we started with vision help him, which was a phrase, and then we got to no, which was a single word, and now she barely even moves, and we're rewinding. I feel like this could also be like an escalation of powers thing
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, so that, and I mean the way, and also the music we had a different kind of music underneath it and things, and it was really kind of like, wow, this is quite powerful kind of thing going on. And then we're back to our slapstick.
Goofy vision.
Yeah, exactly. So and then somehow we stand up and then we get rain.
And yes, my water's broke and the whole house is flooded.
Yeah.
And that is where we actually cut to our advert for this episode, um, which is a busy housewife. And my husband and I were like, "Is this a cleaning product?" Because it all just seems
Mm,
it needed to be cleaned up after. But then we see that it is actually a bath salt for the most luxurious bath that you could possibly have. And of course, the product is Hydra Soak, with probably one of the most classic looking packages. And I really want some. I was like, I'd buy that. I think I'd buy that.
well, I also thought the voiceover was very interesting where it said, "Get away where you actually don't get away," or something like that. Where like
Yeah.
they're very clever with their wording and everything. But I didn't spot as many kind of Easter eggs as there is in some of the other adverts with like, the watch had the name of the guy and obviously the Hydra logo. So this time it literally was just the
The
Hydra.
word Hydra,
Yeah.
and obviously the little logo was in the pattern on the box.
Yeah.
But there's kind of some speculation going around at the moment that the I mean, first of all, the three adverts were all focused on time in some way.
Mhm.
So the first one had a timer on the toaster. The second one was obviously a watch, nice and straightforward. And this is sort of time to escape, time to yourself.
Yeah.
But there is a theory floating around at the moment that perhaps these two people are in fact Wanda and Pietro's parents.
Mm.
And these are being used as a sort of subliminal sort of guiding message of or either positively or negatively to influence Wanda in some way.
Mm.
I'm 99.9% certain that those people are dead.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing to think about, that maybe maybe they are more than they seem. I mean, I should hope so.
Yeah, definitely. So now we're back under the table and it's raining cats and dogs.
Yep.
And then finally it stops and we get out from under the table and she's like, oh, just the way she delivered, what a mess. I don't know why that cracked me up as well. I don't know. It must have just caught me on a good morning, but I love the like kind
Yeah,
of like
it was
air
truly
drying.
wonderful, and the goofy Vision being like "whoa" in the background was wonderful. Like, he really is just absolutely going ham in this show, and I'm all
Yes.
for it.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. But and then that's when we're kind of like, okay, it's game time, kind of
Yeah.
thing, and we go get the doctor. And I thought it was very telling. This is the first time like Vision is not like being aware of the neighbors. He literally in full like kind
Hmm.
of red face bolts out the door kind of thing and then arrives to the doctor and of course conveniently our doctor say again.
Kidnaps him and just runs away.
Well, inconveniently, it's having car trouble and
Yep.
things, but I think what's also funny is like, who puts their, like, sunscreen on before they even get to the place? But, I mean, that's
People who are signaling that they are about to go on holiday in a sitcom.
yes, pretty much. So but, yeah, I love that he literally just, like, puts them on his shoulders and just speeds away in front of the wife who's like, "Hang on, where's my 2 Ps?" kinda thing, and it just that was I was like, "Okay, we're, like, completely
Hmm.
disregarding any kind of hiding." So, meanwhile, while that's going on, Wanda is now in the house.
Yep. Visited by Geraldine, who
Mhm.
looks amazing. That hair is gorgeous. There's a point where Wanda sort of is inviting her into that. She's hidden under a coat that she's extremely pregnant. Um, in the same way that every single show who's had a pregnant cast member has done at one point or another, where it's a frumpy coat holding something weirdly in front of the bum. She goes through all of the possible options with this one, which I really enjoyed. Um, and it was almost like a reverse of how things happen in real life with TV, because it's the character pretending not to be pregnant instead of the actor pretending not to be pregnant.
Yeah.
But I just it. I don't know why, but when Wanda invites Geraldine into the house, she's like, "Oh, come in, Geraldine," and Geraldine's response is, "Oh no, it's Foxy." She's talking about the coat, but just the way she delivered it, I was like, "Is your name Foxy now?" I was so confused for like a full 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's because she said, "Oh, I know right now is not a good time," or, "Oh, right now is not a good time," and so she
Yeah.
was
Oh, I think
thinking
she was
of
talking about the coat. She was saying,
yeah,
"Oh, the coat is nice," but it was just the way that she replied to the word Geraldine with "No, it's Foxy." I was like, "No, your name's Your name's Monica."
yeah.
It was just a peculiar order of writing sentences in a script, I think.
Yeah, but even I've noticed because this happens shortly, a little later in the scene, again, putting on that kind of 70s voice, like, Geraldine is definitely a different kind she has a different kind of speaking dialect, which is funny. It's very clever because it's very subtle, and if you don't pay attention or you just may not notice it, but yeah, because then when they go into modern time, them, you do see a voice change. It's not like going from like British to English, but it's still like a pattern difference. But so of course we have the whole she's getting a bucket, she helps herself because Wanda's having contractions. So every time she has a contraction, her coat changes. And I love the third one. And she's kind of like, oh, I kind of like this.
Yeah, that was
But
pretty great.
but then also then kind of like right. Oh, and also another thing which gets paid off shortly is right before Geraldine comes in, Wanda hears a noise in the nursery, which then we later see what this is. But so
Yeah.
finally she's changing things.
I
Go ahead.
really enjoyed that when she had the fruit bowl, and she was using that to hide her bump. Um, Geraldine sees and goes, "Oh, would you look at that?" But she's obviously not talking about the fruit.
Yeah.
The fruit is definitely her saving the, "Oh, you're more pregnant than I thought you were going to be," or something like that. So I know, like the reaction there was not sort of the classic misunderstanding reaction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. So I
Like
love that
maybe
she
just a "oh" or something like that would be a classic misunderstanding, but just "oh, would you look at that" is very specifically, that is peculiar and I have noticed it.
yeah, definitely, which of course makes her panic, and she's like, "Fruit!" And then takes an apple, and then, of course, proceeds to tell an excruciatingly long story about her boss getting hiccups and everything, and all the while this is happening, we have a stork appear. And again, this made me crack up because she's trying to do, like, her little magic to make it disappear, and it's just like, "Nope."
Yep.
Like, not having it. Now, what's your theory on this? Because of is this an outside thing that she's not controlling, or like
So there's a couple of things about this sequence. Um, my brain just turned off there for a sorry. So there's a couple of things about the sequence. The first thing is, Geraldine was quite ready to leave. She was like, "Oh, Wanda, I've got a question for you." Sits down, starts to talk about work, and then is just like, "Oh, but you're busy. I'll go." And obviously, classic misunderstanding sitcom joke of, "Oh no, actually, tell me about that thing I don't care about, so that you don't see secret X or Y."
yeah.
Um, Considering that Wanda has had trouble controlling various things over the course of this episode, it doesn't surprise me that her trying to poof the stalk away doesn't help. And I think it could just be as simple as a stalk implies a baby is coming. Um, Although we don't ever see two stalks.
No, we don't.
Although it
Well,
could
we
simply be an extra stalk is coming, like an extra baby is coming. It could have been sort of a foreshadowing or something like that. But I do think it was partly a fun sitcom joke. The painting of a stalk is now a real stalk that knows to try and pretend to be a painting. So
oh
the
my
stalk
god,
is aware.
that was hilarious. But yeah, first things first, it comes around and it tries to eat the fish on Geraldine's
I love those trousers.
clothing. Oh, and I loved it at first because like she tried to because she couldn't get the stork to go away with the poof. Then she throws fruit at again, I was laughing my head off. This is where I was just like, this should not be this funny, but it is. And it just, was set up
Yeah.
great. And then all it took was her just basically getting up and the stork right away into the nursery. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it makes a noise or something, but somehow we get into the nursery kind of thing. And I just
No,
loved
so the reason that so originally Geraldine sits down like, "Wanda, I've got a question for you," and then launches into this entire tirade about her boss, which I'm a little bit intrigued about because she specifically is talking about a serial that she has helped to name Gravity O's, and I just found that a fun little thing that it was about spacemen and things like that, where we've got some, various tenuous links into the extended extraterrestrial Marvel universe. Um, but the reason that she then goes into the nursery is because she said, "Oh, do you still keep your stationery in there?"
that's
Again,
right.
Geraldine, who has met Wanda twice, or twice now, but according to the intro, is now a good friend of hers, despite the fact that last episode was 12 hours ago. So obviously some reality bending going on there. But yes, Geraldine heads into the the nursery, and that is where you see the classic misunderstanding of, "Oh, Wanda thinks she's looking at the now perfectly posed stalk, but she's actually looking at the crib."
Yeah.
Um, So, and I also really enjoyed that once Geraldine wasn't looking at the stork anymore, the stork was like, really, really liked that little tidbit.
Yeah, definitely. So, and a very good looking digital stork, I have to say. Very good looking digital stork. So, except I think the beak might have been like the close up of the beak might have been a little puppet kind of grabbing at it, but that's just, yeah.
Yeah, and there were a couple of moments where it was moving, and I was like, "Is that a puppet?" Because it was kind of that stilted puppet-like movement, and I was like, either that's a puppet or somebody has deliberately animated it to look like a puppet,
Yeah,
or like
definitely.
a stork. To be fair, because
To,
storks are also weird and stilted.
yeah, but I just love that whole hiding moment. So, and then of course, we can no longer hide it anymore, and Wanda drops the flower pots, and that's when all is revealed that she is very, very, very pregnant.
Yes, actually, before this happens, there was a moment that I was kind of very interested in, which was the reason why Geraldine does jump up and scare that stork away, is the noise that the end of her story, and the stork makes this kind of twittering birdie noise.
Yes.
The way that Geraldine reacts to that does not look like, oh, I've just heard a weird noise. It looks like there is a threat to my life here. And the way she says, like, it was a chattering sound.
Yes.
And Wanda sort of makes a little joke about how it's her ice machine. It's come built into the fridge, but the reaction did not match the actual sound that she heard. And I'm just trying to. I'm still trying to think what I think that chattering sound might be that she would be familiar with.
Yeah.
I would like to come back to that at the end.
Definitely. But no, I noticed that too. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah,
it was kind of
because
like one of those.
because the thing that I thought it might be is something that I don't think she should be afraid of.
Mhm.
I will come back to that later.
Okay, we'll put a pin in it. But yeah, because I was just kind of like, that's a very interesting way to say, oh, it sounds like radio chatter or something like that. And I'm like, and then when she says it makes it sound like stork noise, I was like, yeah, you guys are talking about two different things. But yeah, so good coming back to that. But yeah, so now Wanda is in full labor mode.
Yes, and Geraldine goes ahead and grabs some bits and pieces out of cupboards for her, completely, not necessarily completely ignoring all the crazy stuff that's going on around her, but she says, I may be late to the party, but I'm sure there's a logical explanation for this. So she's
Mm,
acknowledging that she is a newcomer to this town,
yeah.
and that right now she has other things to focus on, but she's sure that later this will all work out in some way. And I did just find that interesting that she specifically said, oh, I may be late to the party.
Hmm.
Um, so she knows she's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, exactly. So baby one arrives, and of course, late to the party is Doctor and Vision, as we see, still comes in whoosh, wishing in to the point the doctor is kind of like, whoa, okay. So again, no illusion has been made, but he is in kind of more blonde looking him, and he's so happy kind of thing. And yeah, and then the doctor's I forget kind of what the doctor is saying at this point, but he doesn't really do much.
Really doesn't. He's mostly there to have been a reason to get Vision out of the room, which I think is a kind of a common trope with TV shows where there is a baby born. First of all, we had them hiding directly behind the couch. Really enjoyed that. That was just so perfect. And also just any excuse to get somebody out of the way for dramatic effect whilst there's a whilst there's a baby being born.
Yes. So I'm trying to remember, is Vision there when the second one is born?
Yes. So
Okay.
the first baby is Tommy,
Yes.
which Vision is sort of happy to call him Tommy. And the second baby, very suddenly and without any expectation, turns up. And we cut very quickly once Wanda starts with the second one. And that could both be we need to cut this for time, or it could be Wanda is deliberately cutting to later so she doesn't have to experience that pain again.
Yes, which I bet a lot of us, if we were moms, would be like, yeah, can we just skip that whole part kind of thing?
So both of them get their wish in a baby called Tommy or Billy.
Yep.
Which that first baby, the most intensely blue eyes I've ever seen on a child.
Yes.
But yeah, so the babies get put into a lovely little crib, and the doctor tells Geraldine that she'd make a great nurse. Just after she's described how she's just had a promotion at her company for coming up with new marketing stuff, and it's just like, sure, Jan.
Yeah, fine, yeah, sure. Thanks for that.
And Vision escorts the doctor out, not quite as fast this time, and we hear the doctor say that a line that I think could very easily have been delivered in a not creepy way. Vision asks, "Oh, will you still get away on this holiday?" And the doctor says, "Oh no, could never seem to get away. Small town doctors can never seem to escape." But the way he delivers that last line is the sheer desperation in that man's eyes.
Yeah. Definitely. That was very telling as well. So it's like, again, there's these, I felt this episode really was like, okay, we're really starting to show you the clues. And definitely you're starting to see the reaction of the players as well, because Vision then sees, because Vision asks the doctor, hey, can we kind of keep this between us kind of thing? And he's like, oh yeah. Or no, that was earlier. Never mind. But anyway, they're still trying to keep it secret, but then it pretty much is we see.
Herb is still at his bushes.
Yeah, and now Agnes is there.
Agnes. And again, another thank you to the people who closed caption our TV shows, because there is no way I would have been able to hear what their conversation was if I hadn't had the subtitles on. And this is why I have the subtitles on with every show I watch. Agnes and Herb are discussing Geraldine. There's phrases like, oh, and her belly, and did she go inside the house? And it's, some very clandestine little whispering to each other. And Vision notices the whispery. I don't know if it's because he heard what they were saying or because he sort of saw two people whispering who he doesn't understand why they were whispering.
Correct.
But yeah, he heads over and we get probably my favorite exchange in the episode. Herb and Agnes are warning Vision about Geraldine in a very roundabout way.
Yeah, at first they start kind of vague kind of thing, like don't they say something like she doesn't have a home? Or
yes. So Agnes is very specific. She's she to me it sounds like she's trying to make Vision distrust her without specifically explaining why. Without saying she's not from here, she's not from this little universe we live in, she doesn't have a home, she was never meant to be here the way that people who have homes were.
Yeah.
And you can tell that she's very deliberately picking her words. And Herb, it feels like, is a little bit less deliberately picking words and a little bit more like, I've just discovered something and I am worried about telling you.
Yeah.
And his exact words are, she came here because we're all.
Oh, and the look on Agnes's face, kind of like she breaks character and almost is kind of like, don't do it. I mean, that's what at least it came across to me and the watch I had.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because at this point, whilst this conversation is happening, inside the house, Wanda and Geraldine are talking about the babies, who are twins. And Wanda mentions that she is also a twin, despite the fact that those two actors look about 15 years different in age and look nothing like each other. Really enjoyed the twins nonsense that they pulled on Age of Ultron there.
Yes.
but she calls out Pietro by name, and starts to sing a lullaby in Sokovian.
I thought was so cool. Like I was like, here we go. We are finally bringing that back. And also
as she's singing it, you can see Geraldine it's like she's shaking something off. And it's interesting that this conversation outside is happening at the same time that Wanda is singing this, and Geraldine is sort of becoming a little bit more lucid. Like singing the lullaby and remembering the outside world is loosening her grip on everybody's sort of ability to think for themselves.
Yeah. And I just loved that. Side little note, funny story. Those two actors that played twins, either was right before or right after, played a married couple in Godzilla.
Yes.
So I don't know if it was before or after. That's why I was just like, this is awkward. Before. Yeah, I was like, and now you're twins. Like, okay, sure. But no, I love what's his name? Aaron, I forget the actor's name, but Kick-Ass.
Taylor Johnson.
That's it. That's right. He has 3 names kind of thing. And yeah, but I also loved like the way she says his name. She went into her accent kind of thing. And so yeah, I really loved this moment because also again, Wanda now breaks her, she's now modern day voice too, when she's looking at the babies and goes, I was a twin, and just like the sound of like pain in her voice and things and like remembering kind of thing. And the lullaby was just amazing. And I was so happy because I know there's always been the whole, where did her accent go? And then it's like been later said that Black Widow helped her assimilate, or not, maybe not the word that's very Star Trek-y word. But anyway, that's why the accent went. So I was very happy to kind of go right back to her roots. And then Geraldine drops the big bomb of...
Yeah, like use the trigger word for both Wanda and me, of course, with my love for robot boys.
Yes.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
And I was like, oh! I was like, uh-oh, this is bad.
Full Sokovian accent Wanda of what did you say about Pietro? So not a good time to be had by anybody. And you can see that Geraldine, not Monica just yet, but Geraldine again kind of drops the sort of the cool 70s persona and is just like, Wanda, don't be like this.
Yeah,
or
and
don't do this.
And then she sees the necklace,
which was there the whole time.
Yeah.
We went back because Brad was like, was that like a peace symbol or something before? No, it was always the sword symbol, and we just didn't look at her necklace.
Yeah. I love that, where it's like when something's like revealed, you have to like go back and go, has it been there from the beginning? And I love like when films do that, where it's like, yep, it was there the whole time, and you have to like go and rewatch it.
Yeah.
So all the while, I love kind of intercutting editing. So all the while this is going on and Wanda's starting to be very suspicious, you have the 2 quote neighbors letting Vision know that something's not right. And then all of a sudden, Vision's kind of like, I'm gonna go now.
And Agnes is very much like, okay, bye, back to my character, I'm gonna pedal off on my bike, and Herb just like puts his trimmer away and just heads back indoors, like nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And Vision heads back in, and we have the most amazingly super villain-esque face on Wanda as Geraldine is mysteriously gone. She had to go. And I also really enjoyed as the aspect ratio changes, Wanda is actually pushing it out with her hands.
Is she?
They've matched the timing of it to her moving her hands outward, and I was like, that's either somebody in the edit suite was just like having a good day, or she's deliberately moving it to the next aspect ratio. And it's fun because it turns instead of
4:3.
4:3, it does expand, but then it shrinks to widescreen.
Oh, okay. So not only does it go to
opens up
16:9, it goes to 2:3:5. Yeah,
but it only goes to this once we get outside of town.
Okay.
I just found that really interesting that she opens it up to 16:9, and then we.
Yeah, I didn't catch like I saw it happening, but I didn't catch on her hands that she was doing that. So that's
Because she's just doing this like at the bottom of the screen, and you're like, oh, what's she doing with her hands? You can't quite see if she's holding something, and then like
oh,
it's
I'm gonna have
very
to watch
good,
it again
very
now.
nice.
Oh, because I mean, obviously, I noticed that kind of thing, but
And that feels very much like she's a lot more sort of decisively in control, because the
mhm.
transition from 60s to 70s, she the colorization, it didn't quite feel fully in her control, because Vision was red without her necessarily doing it purposefully,
Yeah,
and it was almost as though she then caught everything up with it
yeah.
by colorizing everything. So yeah, it was just an interesting sort of she had to leave, everything's fine. Very
Hmm.
sinister, really loved it. And
Hmm.
then we see that where Monica has gone is in fact outside the town.
Yes, and it's like it looks like now because it was quite dark and we were watching it in a bright living room, so I might need to see again. It looks like so it is like a bubble. We've had it confirmed now. This isn't like it's very much is like a Truman Show kind of situation, and it is being monitored. And there is like this force field looking thing that looks like a TV screen when Monica gets spat out, kind of thing. Good song choice too. That's deliberate, just
Yeah.
the wording and everything. Good choice. And I was singing along, but I was like, oh, this is very calculated. We now kind of see that there is a facility, and this is like an actual kind of portal in world. It's not like she's hooked up to a table or it's not in her mind. It's an actual thing. So now we're gonna get into the theories because Helen's got some whoppers. So let's go.
Okay, so first of all, outside that where Monica lands, the car's driving up. I know you said you were watching it in a bright living room, but one of those cars did have a sword logo on the door when it opened, so we did see that. Um, I'm I'm intrigued by why uh, Geraldine was wearing the sword logo as a necklace to begin with. I
Mm,
know it's a plot point to make to make Wanda notice it, but it seems very I'm trying to draw your attention to something. I'm trying to, again, maybe subliminally tell you that something's coming. Um, or maybe not. Maybe it was the same way with the helicopter. There is something about Geraldine that is inherently sword, and therefore that's why that was there. I want to go back to episode 2 and have a look at her outfit there and see if there was maybe, um, a hidden sword logo on her that I'd missed.
yeah.
Um, so I think I think last time we had some various ideas about what this could be, but I think Herb is my driving factor here. I think that when he was going to say "we are all," I
Hmm.
think there's a chance he was going to. I know there's sort of the idea that he could be saying, she's here because we're all trapped. She's here because we're all fake. She's here because we're all being imprisoned by the Scarlet Witch. But I think there is a chance that he was actually going to say, she's here because we're all mutants.
Oh.
And I think this is because, for a couple of different reasons. The 50s fake town in the middle of nowhere, to me, screams nuclear testing.
Yes.
And if you are going to hide a group of people who do not want to be found, I would maybe hide them in a fake nuclear testing Fallout style fake village that isn't supposed to really exist but definitely does, and has a whole bunch of sentient weapon people surrounding it and checking that everything is okay. I think that Wanda was either imprisoned here after the end of Endgame, or she chose to come here to try and help. Perhaps there is somebody in this town who she was trying to find to help resurrect Vision, or somewhere to go and pretend nothing bad ever happened. Um, and the only reason I think this is because obviously we have the whole House of M connection, but there isn't really a reason why you would have all these people both not want to leave and also want to leave at the same time.
Yeah.
If they were all here because they were sword agents who are expected to be on the job, helping to create this fake life for Wanda to stop her from going nuclear and burning down the world, they would not be as scared as they are when they break through to their sort of real selves.
Yeah.
And when Wanda hears the voice on the radio in episode 2 that says, "Wanda, what are they doing to you?" Or who did this to you, sorry.
Yeah.
Just before that, there's an exchange with Dottie where Wanda says something along the lines of, I'm not here to hurt you, or I don't want to, cause problems." And Dottie says, "I don't believe you."
Mm.
And I just find it, I haven't fully sort of solidified this theory yet in my mind, but I do think that there's a significant chance that this is a town of people who were trying to hide, and perhaps weren't. Which brings me on to my second theory, which I do not think is true. And that is, if we have a town of people who are trying to hide and do not want to be discovered, he could also have been saying, "She's here because we're Skrulls." Which could explain the chattering noise. But Monica knows Skrulls, has had good friendly dealings with them. Hence, I don't think those are Skrulls. Also, because we saw Captain Marvel take the Skrulls off to another planet at the end of Captain Marvel.
I think for me, mine, after kind of seeing the ending, was pretty much like I had a random ass theory that it's like basically Wanda knows what's going on, but it's like almost like I don't know, like my theory that we're getting hacked by Sword right now, so I have no idea what else to say. You know what? I think Sword is telling us to not talk about this anymore.
This is making me think it's actually Skrulls.
Yes. So I think what we're going to do, we've got some great speculations. We're going to end this episode and just kind of say, where can they find us? Where can they find you, Helen?
I'm at Ketsi Ita-N on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find the podcast at wherestreams_CT on Twitter.
And I am Shannon. You can find me on Twitter at Shenanigen, spelled with an E-N at the end. And that, okay, big brother, we're done. We're going to end this episode. Helen, it's been great. Thanks for coming on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode. We're going to be in the 80s. So I think very much going to have a lot of cues from like Roseanne and things like that, and go from there. But as it looks like Sword is hacking your feed again, we're going to say goodbye. And yeah, we will see you guys next time.